All right, let's go to Jonathan J. How's it going?
How's it doing? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How old are you?
I am 28.
Okay. And which God do you believe in?
I believe in God has been revealed through the Old and New Testament, and that He is able to be seen through the natural world. So
All right.
the one God.
Fantastic. And what is your best evidence that this God is moral?
It depends on your definition of morality, right?
My definition? Why? Why does it depend on my definition?
We have to find out. Well, if I just use like an arbitrary term, it would be difficult to, we have to know. I would have to know what kind of definition, and then I would have to go from there.
Okay.
Right? If you said your morality is based off just
do you think God is moral?
It'll be difficult. Of course.
Why?
Well, again, we would have to know the definition.
Right? Why does the definition matter though? Because you think that God is well, you have reasons, right? What's your reason that God is moral?
Well, my definition of morality would be grounded in God's nature.
Okay.
Right. So that is subjective. It would depend on if you believe morality is subjective. Then we could go from there. So it would depend on what you believe morality is.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd be impossible to have a conversation.
Okay. So, well, morality is the dispensation of what is like right. So, like the difference between right and wrong. So that's would you say, are you saying that the dictionary definition is wrong of morality or moral?
Well, no, it's still an arbitrary definition.
Is it? I asked you if it was right or wrong.
Right or wrong? Again, that's arbitrary, right? We would have to know what this means. What is right?
Do you think it's right? Do you think the dictionary definition of moral is correct or incorrect?
But that doesn't make sense.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense? I'm asking your opinion. In your opinion, is the dictionary definition of moral correct or incorrect?
Well, it would be correct depending on what you believe the right and wrong is.
Okay.
Right? Otherwise, it's begging the question.
Depending on what's begging the question of what is... concern with the principles of right and wrong behavior is begging the question?
What are those principles? Yeah, what are those principles and what is right and what is wrong?
Okay. What is right and what is wrong? Okay, so in your worldview, what is right and what is wrong?
Okay, that's perfect, because then if it's in my worldview, whatever I would say would be right because it's in my worldview. Whatever I say would be wrong would be my worldview, and then you would just have to kind of agree with that, right?
Okay.
Because that's from my worldview.
Yeah. So it's from your worldview. Okay. So I'm not quite tracking here. So you're saying then that it's all according to what's right and wrong according to your worldview.
But that's what you asked. You asked for if it's based off my own personal thing, then I would be right regardless.
Yeah.
And then if you say, yeah.
What's an example? What's an example of right behavior then?
Right behavior would be acting accordingly to reality, and that reality is grounded in God.
Okay. That reality is grounded in God? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, if we came up with examples and we could look at we could determine whether or not it's right or wrong, right?
I don't understand your question.
If we looked at
my definition of right would be grounded in God.
It'd be grounded in God?
So whatever is right would be grounded in God by definition.
Okay. Would it be the right thing to do to grape a spouse if that spouse's significant other cheated on them?
Of course not. Right?
Of course not?
Because
okay.
Because that would be against subjective morality that is grounded in God.
Yeah, that'd be against, okay. And so does God think that's wrong?
God knows all true things that would go against his nature. It would be by definition wrong.
Okay. So if we found an instance in the Bible in which God had a wife graped for a husband's infidelity, would that be right or wrong?
A woman was raped, and God said that was a good thing to do.
I didn't say God said it was a good thing to do. I said that there was a woman graped that God was instrumental in making that happen, and I'm asking you. Well, I'm asking. Well, yeah. We'll get into it in a second. I'm asking you if that would be right or wrong. If God commanded a woman to be raped to punish a husband for his infidelity, would that be right or wrong?
Oh, God commanded. Oh, yeah. No, that would be wrong. That'd be wrong. God, I didn't know God commanded that.
That would be wrong? Okay, let's go take a look at an example. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 8 through 12. And we'll read it together. And before we do that, in your mind, what does consent mean when it comes to what does consent mean when it comes to whether or not somebody is raped?
That they are willfully free of mind, making the decision that they want this. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
That would be a good definition.
Yeah, I can look one up for you. So I like to use the acronym FRIES. You know, like French fries. So the acronym FRIES for consent. And what that means is freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, and specific. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Say it again.
I look at to determine if somebody is given a consent, I use the acronym FRIES, which stands for freely given. So consent is freely given, consent is reversible, consent is informed, consent is enthusiastic, and consent is specific. So do you agree? Which one do you agree?
I guess no.
Which one do you disagree with? Oh boy.
You don't have to be enthusiastic about anything you consent to.
You don't have to be enthusiastic. So I
consent to go to work tomorrow. I'm not enthusiastic about that.
This isn't reference to whether or not it's grape, not whether or not you go to work. That's a different type of consent.
Oh man,
it's close, but it's the same thing. So you're telling me that if a woman unenthusiastically says yes, you consider that consent?
I feel like there's a lot of wives out there going, I guess we're doing this. All right, let me go with my husband. And then the wife goes and sleeps with her husband. She's not enthusiastic. She's doing it kind of like a chore. I don't think the man raped her.
Okay. And so would you say then that if the woman is not enthusiastic in that instance, that the man should just go ahead and have his business with her?
Oh, of course not. But I don't think by definition.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, see, according to this, because there's like a spectrum of consent because of enthusiasm, because if a person feels like they are obligated to do this, then what that means is that that's not consent. A yes should be excited and eager, not a hesitant or passive I guess so. If it's not an enthusiastic yes, it's a no. That's what that means. So
I think I would depend on, again, your definition is kind of, it leads for a lot of gray area. Just like the area I gave you, would you think that husband raped his wife?
I would say,
is that what you're saying?
If the wife says I guess so, then yes, he raped his wife. That is correct.
It doesn't have to be. You said enthusiastic, right? I'm just talking about that specific.
Well, yeah, that's what I defined it as. Okay, well, let me read it again. A yes should be excited and eager, not a hesitant or passive I guess so. So you're telling me that if a woman says I guess so, that's a yes to you?
Yeah. No, it's not a yes to me, but I also don't think it's great.
Got it. So, okay. So that in that sense, then, I mean, if I were you, I would reconsider because it will keep you out of prison.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh no, I like I said, for me, I would right. I don't guess so isn't yes. For me, I would say.
Got it.
Okay. But I don't think it like legally, because or not even legally, just again, we would have to find out what morals are, but again, I think that's a gray area.
Okay.
Right? Should they go to prison? Should they go to prison for that?
I would say so, yes.
But their wife is saying, I guess so, I got on top, it's like a chore, right? I think that's wrong on both terms.
I would agree that, yeah.
I think the wife should just say no, and I think the husband should, even if she doesn't say it, if she says I guess so, should say, okay, we're not doing this. But again, I would say that's gray area. What
if the wife didn't say anything? What if she said neither yes nor no? Is that consent?
That just doesn't make the other ones. He freely does it, right? I'm just critiquing the enthusiastic part.
Okay.
But regardless, that's just think for the sake, we can continue and
Okay.
talk about.
All right. So let's look at. Okay. So we're at 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 8 and 12. Now you're familiar with the story of David and Bathsheba, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't need to read like all the backstory on here. So I'll just focus your attention on verse 11, because this is the judgment from God. And it says, "Thus says the Lord, I will raise up trouble against you," and he's talking about David, "from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbors." So let's just stop right there. Do we see consent from David's wives here?
It doesn't imply, it doesn't show, no.
Yeah, we don't see consent here. And we'll continue on. "And he shall lie with your wives in broad daylight." So can you point out?
I don't think it doesn't mean that they weren't, right?
Yeah, sure. So this kind of goes back to the question that I asked you earlier. So if a wife says neither yes nor no, has she given consent?
Well, you don't know that through the text. It doesn't say that they said yes or no. It doesn't say. Right,
Let me ask you again.
I would say that's an argument from silence.
If
right? You don't know if a wife, they really actually went
sure.
with it.
So if a wife says neither yes nor no, gives a completely silent answer, gives no answer, is that consent?
Yeah, but the Bible doesn't show, is what I'm saying, right?
All right.
You don't know for sure if they actually did say yes or
I'll ask
did
again.
Say no.
If the wife says neither yes nor no, is that consent?
No, I don't think you understand what I'm saying, right?
Oh, I know perfectly well what you're saying. And it tracks exactly with what we're talking about here. If the wife says neither yes nor no, is that consent?
No, you don't know if they did say yes.
Okay. Point out to me where they said yes.
Exactly. That's an argument from side. Just because it wasn't written down doesn't mean they did.
Okay.
They didn't say
So
yes.
again, if a wife says neither yes nor no, is that consent?
No, that doesn't. The Bible doesn't write every single thing down.
Are you going to answer the question,
right?
Or do I have to keep asking it?
Of course. The Bible doesn't explicitly say she said yes or no. It doesn't
of
say,
course, what?
Right, that she did, but she could have.
Of course,
right?
what?
And it not be written down.
Okay,
that
but
she did not say yes or no.
Okay, right? So is that consent, Jonathan?
Again, you don't know if the Bible wrote every single detail down. They could have said yes.
Yeah. So just the same, if a wife neither says yes nor no, then we don't know if she. Said yes. Yeah, she could, but she could. Yes, yeah, but she could. She could mean. Yeah, it's not written down. So what other things in the Bible happen that aren't written down in the Bible?
Everything we have that reign of the years passed down.
Because we could just think of anything that happened in the Bible and just say, well, it wasn't written down. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, right?
No, you're right. But
Jesus could have grown 3 arms, and that could have just because. So it's possible.
Isn't a good argument.
So it's possible then that Jesus had 3 arms. Is that what you're saying?
That is not what I'm saying.
Well, it doesn't. But it doesn't say that Jesus didn't have 3 arms. So that means it's possible Jesus had 3 arms, right?
No, I'm saying you're making an argument from silence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an argument from silence. So that means that Jesus had 3 arms. It's possible Jesus had 3 arms. No, because it doesn't say that. You would
have to show me clearly that they were great.
Yeah. So what I'm asking you, that's what I'm asking you. That's why I asked you what consent is. And that's why I'm asking you the question that you keep ducking, because you know it's going to blow up your position. Can a wife... If a wife says neither yes nor no, is that consent?
No.
No. Okay, it's not consent. So if they don't say anything, it's not consent. Okay, perfect. So then that means that if we don't see consent here, then it's not consent. Would you agree? Yes or no?
No, that does not follow.
It does not follow. Okay. So are you telling me that when it says in verse 8, I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, are you telling me that the wives possibly consented to this?
That's a hypothetical. I mean, that's possible.
Yes. Okay. What is your evidence that concubines consented?
What is your evidence that they didn't?
Okay, I asked you a question. What is your evidence that concubines consented? You know it's intellectually dishonest to answer a question with a question, right? So present us your evidence that concubines in ancient Israel consented.
Well, I don't
You don't have any evidence. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
have the evidence.
All right. So we're just going to go with they didn't consent. So this is great. So would you?
I don't agree with that.
Well, of course you don't agree with
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, of course you don't agree with
No,
that. But
I
you
don't
don't have
agree
any.
with your-
Yeah, but you don't have any evidence. You don't have any.
making a big leap.
Okay. Again, it's not a big leap at all. Again, present evidence that concubines in ancient Israel consented. That's all you got to do. Just give us some evidence that they consented. It's very simple.
I could try to give you Abraham. Abraham had a concubine, a servant that he slept with, and had Ismail, and she consented.
She consented?
Yep.
Okay.
She was actually enthusiastic. She had a kid.
She was enthusiastic about it. All right.
Yep. And Abraham.
And you're telling me that Hagar was enthusiastic about having Abraham's kid.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna have to read these passages. Okay. Let me look up these passages. So we're going to see in the passages specifically Hagar giving consent, right? Enthusiastic consent. We're going to see that in the passages. Or are you lying?
No, I didn't agree with your definition of fries, right?
I don't care if you agreed with the definition of fries.
Okay,
I asked you specific. Okay, now you're lying because I asked you specific situations what was consent and what wasn't consent. So I asked you specific instances and I asked you what consent was. Do you remember that or do we have to go replay the video?
Yeah, you told me what consent was the fries.
No, I asked you a definition of consent. Are we gonna have to? Do I have to replay this?
What did I say?
Oh, the kick goal has been reached. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, we're gonna do an early kick poll. All right, everybody. So this is Jonathan. Let's start the kick poll. All right, happy face to keep Jonathan, another 20, or crying face to move on. Oh my goodness, we might break a record today. Let's see what happens. Now, is there anyone who accidentally tapped an emoji they didn't mean to tap? What was the question? Is to keep Jonathan for another 20 minutes, happy face, or crying face to move on to the next guest. And remember, you have to tap the emojis on your screen or else typing them in won't count your vote. So you got 15 more seconds. We need closer to, we need closer to 300. Yeah, we're only about halfway there. Oh, hold on. All right. Well, they have agreed to move on, Jonathan. So I wish you a good day.
That's totally fine.
51-4. I would say that's pretty close, but not quite Hall of Fame worthy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that Hall of Fame? I mean, that's actually pretty good for this 52-4. That's not bad. You know, I think I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put it in 52-4. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. We can always kick him out of the hall. Yeah, 52-4. That's a pretty good margin. Wow. And it was Jonathan J. All right. We will put Jonathan J in the Hall of Fame.